Come and dream with me.
Hello and welcome to What Do You Want to Watch, the Explosion Network's premier media podcast. Every fortnight we get together to talk about movies, TV and online content and help you answer the question, do we like the new Toon Squad uniform? No, I'm not a fan. I'm your host Ashley Hobley. Joining me this episode, Dylan Blight.
Did you say Tombstone uniform?
The Toon Squad.
Toon Squad. What's that?
From Space Jam.
I haven't seen this.
You haven't seen the new LeBron? Yeah, listen, it's not good. They changed the colors. It's like blue instead of the white.
Oh.
And they put the circle like on the side instead of in the middle. So
gotta be
part
honest.
of the circle's on the shorts, so they don't line up all the time. How are they going to animate that?
If you pointed this out, if you hadn't pointed this out, I'm not sure I would have noticed and or cared. What color were they in the second movie then? Were they different?
In the first movie, they were white.
No, they didn't play basketball in the second one. Right, okay.
What are you talking about?
Looney
was no
Tunes
second
back in
one.
action. That's the second one. No?
It's not the second.
It is,
Completely
though.
separate.
I saw that in the cinema.
Yeah, but it's not a sequel to Space Jam.
Yeah, it is. It's still Looney Tunes, right? Back in action.
It's Looney
Why are they back
Tunes.
in action? Why are they back in action?
They're back in action from their Looney Tune cartoons.
They're back in action because it's the second movie.
What a tone to set for this show. We have a big one. We'll be talking about what's in watch history. We'll be covering a fair bit of news this week. And then we'll be talking about the movie we ended up watching, Death at a Funeral. But we'll kick things off with a quick thoughts, spoiler-free thoughts on the big release this week, Tenet. Dylan, what did you think of Tenet? The latest film, Christopher Nolan. The movie that will save cinemas everywhere.
Look, I was still going to cinemas no matter what, but that's just a little on me in Tasmania. Everywhere. Tenet is it's a fun little sci-fi movie that is very, very messy. It's fun, cool ideas, great performances, messy, very, very messy. Nolan's messiest movie, I feel, even messier than what I felt like was his messiest, which was Interstellar. So that's my mini review.
I also enjoyed it. I think it is a freight train going down the tracks like super, super fast. You just go way too fast. That's the problem. If you didn't like the audio mix in his most recent films, you're not going to be happy with the audio mix in this one. It's difficult to hear dialogue sometimes, which is a pain because the dialogue could potentially be very important in this film to explain a lot of the concepts that are involved. But I had a good time. Good cast. Unfortunately, there's not much character growth, but you can't have everything apparently. But if you look, if you want to have full spoiler-filled thoughts, we've got a discussion on this podcast feed, so check that out. Moving on. Dylan, you watched the first couple episodes of the new HBO series, Lovecraft Country, from it's Jordan Peele and J.J. Abrams, executive producers.
There are two of them. They're not the
not the showrunners. They,
showrunner. Who I can't remember, but it's just like that little old movie Candyman, who's not directed by Jordan Peele, but everyone just still says he's directing it. So
to him, yeah.
It's fine. Lovecraft Country, written and produced and directed by Jordan Peele. Love that. It's on HBO. Filling time till I find an answer. Misha Green is the creator and the showrunner of the show. So nothing like another series that Jordan Peele has helped, another fantastic up-and-coming
another project done by a black woman.
A black woman who he helps out, and nothing like just automatically giving credit to Jordan Peele. That's the... That's the...
Hey, it's not my fault. It is their fault for advertising it that way. They stick kids and J.J. Abrams' names in the trailer. Everybody's going to attribute to them.
It's true, I guess, yeah. All right, so Lovecraft Country. I have no idea how to talk about this show, but I shall try. Let's set up. The show literally starts with the main character, who is played by Jonathan Majors. Atticus Freeman is the character's name. And the show literally starts with
Atticus Black.
first... Sorry?
Atticus Black, I think. Is it?
Oh, it says Freeman here, but sure.
It says Black on this Google synopsis.
So the show literally starts with a scene of him like in World War II or some war. I mean, it's probably just the war he was in. But anyway, looked like World War II. There's tanks, there's all sorts of shit. Next second, there's like giant World of the War ships flying over, tentacle monsters, then a giant, then a naked lady who's all red and like got a tail comes down. Basically, it has every H.P. Lovecraft kind of go-to thing in the first couple minutes of the show, and it kind of just all throws at you, and it's very confusing. He's asleep on a bus, though, is what you find out. And then we come back to our main character. And the setup is that he is an avid reader. He's returning home to find his father because he got a letter from his father. His father's played by Michael Kenneth Williams in this. His father sent him a letter and said that he's going off in search of his mother's family in Arkham, the town or area or whatever you want to call it, of Arkham, which isn't real. It's not a real place in America. However, it's a fictional place in H.P. Lovecraft's fictional world. And he knows this because he loves to read the sci-fi novels. His uncle, who's played by Courtney B. Vance, he is also a big fan of the sci-fi novels. And in the first episode, it starts kind of simple. Like, he heads home, he speaks to his uncle, he bumps into a childhood friend who's played by Jenny Smollett, who most people know from, well, I know at least from recently seeing her in Birds of Prey, where she plays Black Widow, fucking hell, yeah. Long universe, Jesus Christ. And she's quite good. They're all great. So they set out. She wants to go halfway to somewhere. They're heading in that direction anyway. And the first episode just starts off with them heading off to find this place on this map, which they believe is where his Atticus's father has headed. And the first episode starts relatively simple. In the scheme of things, there is one. The first episode heavily plays into the 50s time period and the race issues, I guess would be I don't know, the stuff that was obviously happening with black people back then in America. So like there's literally a scene where they go into a diner and they're sitting down and it's all very quiet, and they found the diner because they followed a guidebook to get there, which if that's what that movie that won Best Picture covers, Green Book, hey. They followed a guidebook to get there, but then when they get there, Atticus looks down and he's like, why is the floorboards burnt and being covered over with all this white paint? And then they discover, all the black people are being run out of that town and they should not be there. And then there's a quite intense scene where they're chased out of the town, being shot at by a bunch of white dudes chasing them because they're legally, back then, they could just say, no black people in our town. They go through some towns that are called sundown towns, where you weren't to be caught there after sundown, or else you were legally allowed to be shot and killed. So the show starts relatively grounded in its horror themes, and its horror themes are racism. However, near the end of the episode, they're in the forest and they run into giant monsters which start killing people and ripping their limbs off. And at first you're kind of like, this is crazy. This is a real thing, but apparently it's real. And the second episode only gets weirder. And I really have no idea what the show's about, because the second episode felt like it was the season finale. Like, so much happened. And it was very whiplashy, especially because the first episode is kind of grounded for the most part of it. And the second episode just goes so deep into sci-fi H.P. Lovecraft inspired storyline elements and all these sorts of things. It gets really fucking weird and wacky. However, it's like being on a wild ride. And I'm like, I'm enjoying this. I'm very confused. But I'm very much enjoying it, and I'm on for more. To the point that I actually brought the book last night and started reading it because I Googled the book. I was like, when the book came out? The book only came out in 2016. 300 pages. I'll give it a go. So I started seeing that to see if there's any much differences. But it's a weird show. I really don't know how it's. I guess to sum it up, the show is about Lovecraft, H.P. Lovecraft, the author, and his intersection in like modern day society, but where like the crossover because obviously obviously, in case you don't know, H.P. Lovecraft, racist, right? That's a known fact. Big racist. One of the most well-known sci-fi authors that inspires lots of games, movies, books, TV shows, whatever that you've probably read, written, watched, played. However, giant racist. So this show has a weird connecting point where it is a Lovecraft-inspired story with all of his monsters seemingly in it, or being inspired by all his works. However, it stars an old black cast, and it's dealing with 50s racism at the time. So it's kind of like a weird mix. So I'm keen to see more. I have no idea where the show goes from where it ended. It's 2 episodes in. I'm like, this is the season finale. What the fuck? What? I'm not even joking. Like, episode 2 was so much happens. So much happens that you feel like it's over. But it's apparently not. Apparently we've got 6 episodes left.
Crazy. So yeah, that's Lovecraft Country, available on Foxtel. Changing the tone completely, I checked out the new Disney Plus film, Magic Camp. Starring
really
Adam, yeah, really changing the tone. Starring Adam Devine, Jeffrey Tambor, and Gillian Jacobs. Adam Devine plays a failed magician, or a down on his luck magician who's currently doing cabs, working as a cabbie because he can't afford a fancy enough car to be an Uber driver in Las Vegas. And he gets recruited by his old mentor, played by Jeffrey Tambor, to go work at a magic-themed summer camp, and to help these kids learn magic and that kind of thing. It's a charming, fun, like heartwarming film. I mean, it got me emotional towards the climax. The kids are really good in this film, especially Nathaniel McIntyre, who plays Theo, the main like protagonist's child. There's a nice mix of different kids, and yeah, it's just a fun, good-hearted film they'll make you feel good. Of course, the magic's interesting. I mean, I don't know how much was actually practical and how much was like done with TV.
I think it's all real magic you'll find. So
yeah, yeah, probably not, but yeah, there's a lot to like there. So if you got kids, that's one to check out. Dylan, you recently checked out a movie that was playing at the Melbourne International Film Festival. She Dies Tomorrow. What's that film about? Let
me first, just on the Melbourne International Film Festival. Here's my summary of Melbourne International Film Festival. I think it was 68.5. Wasn't it? I think that was the number. So, especially because earlier today they sent out a survey where if you filled it out, you could win a full pass to next year's event. So obviously I did that. But one of the questions, several of the questions relate to like, if we did an online event in the future, obviously they're looking into I guess.
Listen, if there's a good chance that everything is still shit in 12 months' time.
Yeah.
How do we do it?
Or maybe it went well enough for them that they would consider doing maybe not as the full event online, but a mini event online in coordination with it. So on that, I'll say this: cool to see that they moved online. Kind of annoyed that they still had limited slots for stuff. I don't know how that works into potentially them owning like buying a license to air the film to a certain amount of people and not to, you know what I mean? Like, for example, my key example is I wanted to watch First Cow. That's my hot one. They only had one showing on the first night or whatever that the festival began, and I couldn't book my tickets in advance because I wasn't sure when I was working, so that kind of annoyed me. I'd say going forward, if they do one, It should just be
On demand.
on demand, especially with the price they're charging. So most of the movies were somewhere between $12 to $15 to rent, which, you know, that's going to cinema prices. So I feel like if you're going to charge that, at least just make it on demand so you can get more people into...
Or charge premium on demand price for an on demand. Like $15 if you can make this screening, and then a bit more expensive because you have a bit more freedom as to when you'll be able to watch it.
Yeah. But there was a lot of other cool things. I wish I could have covered more. I would have, in a dream world, I would have reviewed a heap and had a fucking here's all the Melbourne international film. But anyway, so I only got time to watch one. She Does Tomorrow. So I have a review out, explosionhour.com. Gave it an 8. I can see a lot of people giving this movie a 2. I feel like this is going to be a very divisive movie for people who watch it. Very weird movie. The core premise is the movie starts. The main character, I think off the top of my head, the name's Amy. I think. She gets home, and you quickly learn that she somehow, in some way, has learnt that she's going to die tomorrow. Now, you don't know how, why, when. It doesn't really matter. But she knows she's going to die tomorrow. She's so dead set she's going to die tomorrow. And the first 10 to 15 minutes of this movie, there's no dialogue. It is more or less of her moving around the house, kind of sulking, doing a lot of weird things. But it kind of worked for me because this movie is morbidly comedic. So, like, there's no dialogue, more or less, apart from her, like, kind of grunting or saying, like, a little thing here and there as she moves around for the first 10 minutes, touching things, like touching the wall, very, like, almost sexually touching the wall. It's quite confusing. And then she goes outside, she's, like, touching all these leaves and all this other stuff. She's drinking the entire time, just, like, bottles of wine. And then when her friend turns up, Jane turns up at the house, who's played by, I can't remember her name. It's the most famous person in this, I feel. Well, hold on. Michelle Rodriguez is in it, so can't let's for what? By the way, she's in it for like 5 minutes. It is a very small role, and I think if you Google the movie, her name shows up. Jane is played by Jane Addams, who, if you watch a lot of like indie sort of stuff, she's in. Eternal Sunshine is what the number one thing on the IMDb, for example. Anyway, so she turns up, and like the first major line of the movie is Jane turns up at Amy's house and walks in, sees all this bottle of wine, and it's like, oh my God, walks outside, shouts out to her. Amy turns around, and then she just replies, I think I want to be a leather jacket when I die. Now, I find that funny. The delivery was great. The fact that she thinks she's going to die. The fact that 2 minutes earlier, you just seen a scene of her silently opening up a laptop, Googling cremation vases and just kind of scrolling. And then she suddenly just starts Googling for leather jackets. And you're like, why is she randomly Googling for the leather jackets? And the payoff is that she's Googling leather jackets because the entire first 10 minutes is her contemplating what she becomes when she dies. That's her process. Like, she's touching the wall, going, this is dead. She's going outside, she's touching the leaves, going, this is dead. This is, all these things in my house are dead. What am I going to be when I did? Like, she's like this. She's listening to records, and she's listening. The song she's listening to, I looked it up after. I forgot to earlier before. The song she's listening to is like a famous Beethoven piece, which if you heard, you would know. I can't remember the name of it, but the story behind that one piece is apparently it's the last piece he wrote, and apparently he reckoned the history says that like he reckoned he was going to die. Like he discovered he was going to die as he was going to write it, which I'm like, wow, that's some like smart trivia shit happening there. But anyway, so then Amy and Jane turn up. This is like the first 10 minutes. Then somehow, because in this movie, they never really explain this, obviously, and it's kind of left open to interpretation. I feel like that's a given at this stage. But is death a real disease? Who knows? But Jane gets it. She goes home. She goes sees other people. Jane spreads it. So now this disease is spreading like the fucking plague. Everyone starts realizing they're going to die. And more or less, the movie is following a couple key characters and shows what those characters do in the face of knowing that they're going to die tomorrow. So there's one character who we don't have much time with, but what we do see is when he finds out he's going to die tomorrow, the first thing he does is he goes to a hospital and he turns off his dad's life support. You find out his dad's been on it for years. And as soon as he does it, he's like, I wish I should have done that years ago. I should have put him out of his misery. His girlfriend then says that she wants to break up with him. and she's like, I should have done that, but I was waiting for your dad to die before I did it, so I didn't hurt your feelings. Like, it's really brutal, but on it, like, weirdly, the movie just kind of dives into the psyche of what would you do if you knew for sure that you were going to die tomorrow. So Amy's character is having this whole like self-dive into wondering what she could be useful in the afterlife. Other characters are worried about their family. There's another character, I won't spoil who in case people do watch it, but there's a couple of characters who do bad things, and that obviously shows their kind of self-centered nature in the face of their death. And yeah, it's a very art house film, very 12 o'clock at SBS, but I very much enjoyed it. It's shot beautifully. It's shot by the same person who shot John Wick 2. It features a lot of neon colored lights that you see every time a character, I guess, like they click onto the fact that they're realizing they're dying. They kind of look into these neon lights. But I wouldn't call it a horror movie. I don't think it's even IMDb doesn't have it as a horror movie. In fact, it lists it as a comedy, drama, mystery, which is about right. I would say thriller, comedy, drama. But again, like the comedy worked for me. Very fucking dark humor. Very dark humor, but I liked it. And the mystery part, I don't need the mystery solved. It's a very introspective, weird movie. The kind of thing you'd kind of expect to see at the Melbourne International Film Festival. There you go.
Okay, cool. I guess changing the tone again.
Wow, here we go. What did you watch from Disney now?
No, back on episode 50 of this podcast, called "What Movies Are Coming in 2020?" Super relevant and accurate. In hindsight, I watched the first two films in a trilogy. I watched Olympus Has Fallen and London Has Fallen. I've now completed the trilogy and watched 2019's Angel Has Fallen. Of course, starring Gerald Butler as a Secret Service agent. In this film, they set him up as trying to kill the president.
All right, I saw a trailer for this Freeman, one. Yeah,
by drones. Yeah, it's not good. It's kind of like action drivel, really.
Isn't that all of them though?
Yeah, kind of. But I mean, the first one was kind of enjoyable. Second one was all right. This one is just off the rails, crazy with the drones. This army of drones come flying over this lake that Morgan Freeman's fishing on and kill everybody. except
it's the birds.
Yeah, except Gerald Butler. It doesn't help that his wife got recast for this last film. Rada Mitchell played the wife in the first two films, and then Piper Perabo plays the wife. And because there was so much time in between the two films, I'm like, is that the same person who played his wife in the two films? And apparently, no, it's not.
My key question I just thought of that I don't really care about, but I'll ask anyway. Was Morgan Freeman in the second one?
He was in all of them.
What? Okay, I'm confused. How's he always there?
Because he's Morgan Freeman.
So you're telling me in the first one,
in the first one,
kill him?
No, in the first film, he's Speaker of the House. He's not the president.
Oh,
in the first film and the second film, the president is played by Aaron Eckhart.
Oh,
then in the second film, Morgan Freeman's the vice president, and in this film, he's the president. So that's why they have to finish it, because he can't go any higher. He can't get promoted anymore.
Last one.
So it's all this big conspiracy. Nick Nolte shows up as Gerald Butler's father.
Yeah. It's that Harrison. Every time I watch the trailer, it just reminds me, what's that Harrison Ford movie where he goes on the run? The Fugitive.
Fugitive is very much The Fugitive, except
every time I watch the trailer, I thought it was that, but like
it's like action explosion version of The Fugitive.
Yeah, Fast and Furious, but The Fugitive.
Yeah. So watch that.
No family.
Not great. So that's your Fallen trilogy information for this episode. Seen all of them. Haven't seen Schindler's List, but I've seen all three of those films.
There we go.
Yep. That tells you a lot. Also watched another critically panned film, Mortal Engines. The pretty sure it was Peter Jackson executive produced this film. Yeah, he was one of the producers, directed by Christian Rivers. Set in like a post-apocalyptic world where apparently all cities are on these giant wheeled machine engine things. This was a interesting mess, I guess. It's just that the art design behind it is really good, but the plot is batshit crazy. There's golems and giant nuclear weapons and so much betrayal, and it's just weird. But it's also boring, which, didn't help it. Seems to have gotten some sort of revival. Obviously came back on Netflix, and a lot of those mediocre films seem to get like a second life, for at least for like
it's
the
based
first
on a
week.
book, and they're like, oh, they try to squeeze too much into the book. Let's do it as a TV series.
That is as I was watching this, it definitely needed to have been a TV series, but it's that kind of book where they wouldn't have been able to get a budget to do like the cities and everything properly for a TV series. So it kind of doomed if you do and doomed if you don't. It's like they introduce a major character like halfway through. They released many major characters like halfway through the film. Suddenly.
I remember watching the trailer and being like, I kind of want to watch this because Robert Sheehan or whatever, Sheehan's in it.
Robert Sheehan.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fine. He's very different to anything else you've probably seen him in. So, he's playing like a straight leading man. But yeah, it's fine. I got nothing else to say about that. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to look at, but other than that, not much to go on there. Dylan, it seems like you've been taking advantage of your Shudder subscription. Checked out the first episode of Cursed Films.
Yeah, so that's diving into films that have, as the title says, cursed histories. The first one is all about The Exorcist. Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know if I might continue watching it because there's some stuff, some of the episodes that are about like poltergeist and stuff that I don't know too much about. I feel like the reason I didn't particularly enjoy the first one, and this is just a general documentary type thing where you already know a lot about the thing, and I'm just like feel like it was very like bare bones. I already knew the deaths that happened. I already knew all the rumors. But again, I feel like the problem is that the audience for this show is probably the people who already know all this stuff and just want it deep dived and investigated more. But it was kind of trying to fit towards a little bit of extra information for those people while also bringing in people who may not know any of this sort of stuff. And I feel like it would have been a lot better to just go, like, it's on a horror streaming service thing, just like go full nerdy into expect people to already know the bare bones of why these films are considered cursed and what the stories are, and then just go from there. So I don't know if I'll return, maybe not.
Okay. And then you also watched Insidious, The Last Key.
Yeah, so ready for this one. I couldn't remember what this one was. I saw it pop up on Netflix. And I watched this while I was doing something else. This was a multitask film, but anyway, so I saw it pop up and I just wanted to click something so I could get started watching something and do some work. And I'm watching it, and I hadn't seen it before. I know that. And it finished. I'm like, yeah, that wasn't too hot, was it? But then I IMDb it, and they're like, this is the fourth one? I'm like, the fourth one? Fuck, I haven't seen the third one. So anyway, I skipped a movie. Not that it's important, because I believe the other one is maybe after or before. Either way, it's not connected enough that I needed the information to watch this one, but I should probably go do that. I've done this before, though, weirdly enough, with Annabelle, where I watched Annabelle and I went and watched the one in the cinema, the third one. I can't remember the name of it, but I actually really liked that one. I was sitting there watching it, walk out of the cinema. I'm like, that movie was fucking hot. Love that. That was a good horror movie. Type in Annabelle, looking it up. I'm like, fuck, there was an Annabelle 2 I missed somewhere. I keep doing it with these like Insidious related franchises. Yeah. They make them so fast. Well, apparently I missed some.
Yeah, I think you're fine, because apparently Insidious 3 Chapter 3
There you go.
is a prequel to the first two films.
Yeah, but yeah, this was a prequel to the first two films as well. But I think it's
jeez.
after. This is where I guess this one I mean. It doesn't matter.
So that one's a sequel to this prequel.
I think so. Yeah. So the first two are with Patrick Wilson and whatever.
And Vera Farmiga.
Yeah, and then the third one and the fourth one basically take the old lady and her sidekicks who come in to help them, and then spin them off. But not spin them off, like make it the third and fourth one.
Interesting. All right, so that's the correct order to watch.
Yeah, anyway, it wasn't very good.
It wasn't very good.
No, it wasn't very good.
So I went on a bit of a documentary kick, which I think you did as well.
I did as well,
Certainly.
weirdly.
So I watched the new Disney Plus documentary Howard, which focuses on the life of songwriter Howard Ashman, who is best known as the writer of the stage musical Little Shop of Horrors, but also did the lyrics for Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. It's a really interesting look at his life. Obviously, someone you probably didn't know much about and who probably affected your childhood a fair bit when you go back and think about it. Pretty much just a basic documentary following his life, of him being a gay man in the early 80s and 90s, and his life sort of coming to being cut short due to complications with AIDS at the age of 40 in 1991. So I mean, interesting it's on Disney Plus, but I guess also to have this sort of interesting look at this person who kind of had such a big impact, I guess, on Disney animation of that time, like their kind of resurgence in that period of time with those three movies sort of rebirthed Disney animation to a certain extent, and I think his music was a big factor in that, so definitely worth checking that one out. Then I watched Best Worst Thing That Ever Could Have Happened. So this is a documentary released in 2016, directed by Lonnie Price, about the original production of the Broadway musical Merrily We Roll Along, which was a Stephen Sondheim production. And the thing about this musical is it was shut down from Broadway 5-6 shows in, or it ended its run very quickly, which was saying something, because obviously Stephen Sondheim at that point was putting out hit after hit after hit. He was doing what he's known for, West Side Story, Company. The one he did right before was Sweeney Todd. So for kind of having a look into how that musical came about, sort of the disappointment of it ending so quickly, but then it's also focused on all the principal actors in the film and where all their lives have come since that production have finished, and all of them have sort of ended up going in different directions, except probably the best known actor out of that group, Jason Alexander, who went on to star in Seinfeld not long after that. So really interesting look into a Broadway documentary into that lifestyle and that kind of thing on Netflix. Also interesting because, of course, Richard Linklater is currently working on a film adaptation of Merry We Roll Along, where the musical takes place over a 20-year period, and Richard Linklater
of course
is making that one over 20 years. So for me to find out a bit more about that musical explains why he's taking 20 years to make this film, or 12 years or whatever, however long it's going to take to make this Merry We Roll Along film. So because apparently the musical goes backwards in time. It starts off with the characters old and ends up at the end of the musical with them all young.
So they have to shoot it backwards.
Yes. So, interesting stuff. So if you're following politics at all, you know that around this time we've had the Democratic National Convention online in America. They're currently doing the Republican National Convention at the moment. So I was trying to learn a bit more about it. So I checked out the Showtime series. It's currently airing on Stan the Circus. So if you don't know, they get a bunch of different... They've got a team of like political pundits and that kind of thing, and they've been following like the Democratic nominee race this 5th season.
Well, just to butt in quickly and say an asterisk, that show was originally started when the original election was on, and it was supposed to be a mini-series following the circus that was happening at the time, right? And that's why they called it. It was supposed to be a mini-series, and it was really like one, it was supposed to be a one and done thing, and it was so good, and it's kind of so good because of the main kind of people that are on it, the pundit dudes. But I just find it hilarious the fact that they called it the circus, was supposed to be a one and done, and they keep coming back because the circus does not stop.
Yes, so obviously this 5th season following this year, they're really timely. Like they had an episode like right after the Kamala Harris vice president nomination. Then they had one right after the Democratic nomination. So I'm sure there will be one right after the Republican convention. Explaining how everything comes along. Sort of, especially now going back and seeing how Joe Biden got the Democratic nomination, how he finally conquered Bernie Sanders was like interesting to relive, I guess, or to get informed about. So if you're interested in American politics, I guess that's worth a look. And now I went back and started watching season 1, which is interesting to watch in hindsight.
Yeah.
Where everybody's shit talking Donald Trump, and now they're all like, on his side and everything. So, American history, crazy. So after watching that, I wanted to be a bit more uplifted. I watched the documentary The Final Year, which follows parts of the Obama administration during the final year of his term, mainly focused around, who was it? John Kerry, who was the Secretary of State, Samantha Power, who was the representative to the United Nations, I believe, off the top of my head, and Ben Rhodes, who was Barack Obama's chief key speechwriter person. There wasn't a lot of information in this. It was obviously you can't do much, I guess, with the administration. I guess there's only so much they'll let you film and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it was interesting to see that. And then I guess the most interesting part of the film was to see all their reactions to election night. Like all the way through, they're like, yeah, we're going to win the next election. Hillary's going to be the next president. And then election night. And everybody's depressed. And then they're all cleaning
What
out
a
their
sum up.
offices and
Everyone's depressed.
It's like, everyone's depressed. Yeah, so that's that. I did watch another documentary, but we need to talk about it in the mandatory Netflix segment of the show. So on the back of that, I watched Becoming, the Michelle Obama documentary, which honestly is just a promotional thing for a book. It pretty much is. It does cover her life, but it's kind of set around her doing a book tour for a book, and that she was doing like full-on stadium book Q&As with different. She'd get a different interviewer every night. So she had like Stephen Colbert, she had Conan, she had a lot of other. She had Gail, she had Oprah one night. She had a bunch of different people asking her questions. Sort of cut it together with like going back through her history of her life and before she met Barack, and then how she felt during the presidency. Also intercut with her going to see young people, because obviously she was very involved with, that's kind of what she wants to do post
civil rights issues and
civil rights stuff, and like talking to young children. And yeah, I mean, it gave me more of an appreciation for what she did and how she had to handle all the shit that the Republican Party were throwing at her, when really she was just a bystander to a certain degree. But yeah, an interesting thing, but again, more of as its whole, it's more of an ad for a book.
I think you'll find that's the benefit of when you've set up your own documentary production company, as the Obamas now have.
Yeah, you can just advertise your own stuff.
Oh.
So let's see what else we got in here. Dylan, staying on a slightly political Slant, I seen you've been watching Jeffrey Epstein, Filthy Rich.
Yeah, I smashed that out. I think it was only like 4 episodes or something. Yeah, no, it's pretty good. I feel like it could have gone deeper, but then, I guess I wished it had gone deeper. I'm not sure if they could have gone deeper because
Legally.
legally, and also just there's so many question marks still about Jeffrey Epstein and just him as a person. But no, it definitely was interesting. It's hard to watch at times. Obviously, a lot of the stuff most people know, but then anytime you're still having to listen to any one of the survivors of his sexual abuse, or like the young girls who are now older, they've got them from all over the place. Like one of them's now living in Queensland. They're interviewing her. Could be living right next to you. I should never know. Then there's a couple of others. They interview. One's living in Spain. And anytime they're talking to them, like the one who lives in Spain now talks about how she was on Epstein Island and she tried to run away and was like going to jump off the cliff and all these other sorts of things, but she was just getting followed everywhere. Like lots of crazy shit that basically they were kind of kidnapped and held on this island. And you hear about all the young, especially anytime you hear about them talking about being like 14-year-olds and they're like, oh, this guy just offers us $200 to give a massage to him. And then next second he was like, take your clothes off. Like it gets obviously dark fast because that's kind of Jeffrey Epstein's. I know on the internet everyone kind of just treats him as a meme to a degree. However, he is when you boil it down, I'm sure he's got many crimes to his name, but his biggest one is he was running a young child like sexual predator ring. Like he was literally had an organization, and they kind of go over that in the documentary where he would, like, if a girl would refuse, he would be like, he wouldn't get angry at them. Instead, he would offer them money to bring a friend around. And then he would offer them money to bring a friend around, and them money to bring a friend around. So he basically had this kind of never-ending looping hole. And they go over how the first time they tried to, the Florida police or whatever tried to get him in like 2008 or whatever, and like there was a huge cover-up from the government. Of course, they go over the Trump stuff kind of briefly. Not much you can go on that because probably legally it doesn't help that he's the president now. Maybe they could more if he wasn't, but there's lots of threads to pull out there. Even of course the Bill Clinton stuff, which is weird because one of the girls on there, she's like, I saw Bill Clinton several times on the island, but and she plainly says that Bill Clinton was someone who she never saw doing anything weird. Like he was just there on like business stuff to do with, because Epstein of course did do what business shit on the side to make his billions of dollars. But then she rightfully points out, like, I never saw him do anything weird, so I don't know why he doesn't just come out and say, yes, I did go to that island, blah, 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 because Bill Clinton's come out and been like, I was never on that island. There's pictures of you on the boat, Bill. Like, there's pictures of you on the plane, Bill. Like, there's manifests of you going on the fucking plane, Bill. The fuck you covering up there? And like one of the girls points out, when the election was happening, she's like, great, so Donald Trump, friend of Epstein. Hillary Clinton, wife of, friend of Epstein. And she said that, like, that was the worst when both nominees were up. She's like, what the fuck do I do? Like, all these people are connected. So, interesting. Jeffrey Epstein. Maybe we'll hopefully find out more one day. There's still heaps of his little schemers and horrible, horrible people that he's friends with, that, including Donald Trump, that hopefully can get their justice one day. And I don't know, as much as the internet likes to spend all their time on Reddit trying to work out if he killed himself or someone forced him to kill himself, etc., 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 there's definitely some, 50 years from now, hopefully we have it all. There's a lot there.
Staying on topic, you checked out the documentary Athlete A. What's that one about?
Yeah, so sexual predators. Yeah, should be laughing, but yeah. So this is a good documentary. Dives into something I didn't know anything about, so that was good. Although it's hard to watch again because it is about, I think it's called the U.S. like, I don't remember the official name. US Olympics, I think, is the names. Like, literally just the branch of Olympics that is basically before, like, that trains all the people that will go to Olympics for the US. And how there was a certain doctor there who was sexually abusing and young girls or even older girls at times, but primarily young girls, and kind of getting away with it because all the people above him were covering for him because, I don't know. I really don't know. I kind of assumed they were like, he's a good doctor. I don't know why they were covering for him, but it does have a somewhat happy ending for this one. Spoilers, because the dude actually is in prison now for like 260-year terms or something like that. So, spoilers, you're gonna die there. Good riddance. But this one was interesting because there's just I don't particularly pay too much attention to Olympics in general, yet alone like what happens, like how do, because it focuses on these girls who are gymnasts, right? And it's some of those things I don't think about because I don't care, but I'm like, how does someone go from being good as a young girl to suddenly being in the Olympics before they're 18? Like, how do you, like, it's weird when you think about it. Like, they're not even adults and they're on the Olympic team or potentially on the Olympic team. You never really...
Well, I think historically gymnasts have been younger purely because they're more flexible when they're younger and are thus able to pull off those crazy stuff. They as you get older, you get a bit more.
They cover it somewhat briefly in it, and they say it actually started somewhere like fucking Russia, which I guess explains why you see all these like in movies, the girls are always like ballerinas or like gymnasts or some shit like that. Because this one guy explains how Russia was doing it, and they started doing it because they could kind of berate the young girls into doing what they wanted easier than older girls. Like, the coaches could be tougher and mentally sort of abuse the girls, but it worked. And then the US caught onto this and was like, because he outwardly just says that they'll get these young girls come in, like 10, 12, whatever, and be like, you're a fat piece of shit. Like, even if they do good, like to constantly put them down to do better, and they won't fight back because they're like, well, the adult's telling me I suck, so I have to do better. Like, it's dark. It's weirdly dark.
Yeah. So I checked out the documentary series High Score that just released on Netflix, which is a video game documentary series kind of focusing on the history of video games. It's very surface level to a certain degree. Like, they touch on, it's very much, each episode is kind of focused on a different genre of video games, like platformer and puzzler and RPG and eventually first person shooter. I mean, it's okay. I don't think anyone who... There's not a lot there that people who follow video games a lot wouldn't already know to a degree. Interesting enough, each episode they include like some sort of video game competition that happened in the past, like who won the Nintendo Championship or the Sega Championship or whatever, like just so you can tie in esports each episode. So that's interesting, but you know, the different tidbits about the history of video games and that kind of stuff. So I mean, it's fine. So there's only like 6 episodes, so it's an easy watch to get through. But again, not like a deep dive into the real history of video games or anything. It's like bits and pieces here and there. So yeah, that was something. Dylan, you checked out the documentary A Secret Love, which I saw got a lot of buzz earlier in the year.
Yeah, this is quite good. It's although my one criticism is it's kind of short. Like, I feel like they could have fit. I think it's only like 90 minutes. If I check real quickly,
83 minutes.
There you go. Yeah. So it's about these two older ladies who, the Terry Donahue and Pat Henschel, right? Who I mean, they're old ladies, right? So that's the setup. They're old ladies. The show starts. You're like, what's this about? And they were, until a couple years prior to the filming of this documentary, still secretly hiding the fact that they were in a relationship with one another. which is super interesting. Of course, you straight away go, how do you keep that a secret when you're that old? How do you keep that a secret from loved ones? Then also, of course, there's like under the base level there, of course. I mean, the way I start thinking about it straight away, you're like, well, history wronged these people. Like they've had to, like, they were scarred so much from growing up in a period like the 50s or whatever, where it was drilled into them to hide it, or else you'd be, get the shit beat out of you on the street. It was so much more hide it than it is now if you're gay, that they had it drilled into them so much that they were afraid to even tell their family till they were close to death. I mean, to put it bluntly, like how old they are by the time they bother telling their families is utterly ridiculous. And yeah, I think it's a huge discredit to them that they had to live through that period and keep it a secret for so long. But the documentary just covers what they're going through in their life now, which is the fact that I think it's Terry has got like bad Parkinson's and she's struggling with that. And of course the Pat even has some health issues because they're getting old, and it intercuts with them dealing with that, with stories about their past and what they did growing up, how they kept it a secret for so long, how they met, all that sort of stuff. Like it's a feel good love story at the same time as it's not, to a degree, if you know what I mean. Like it is a feel good love story because they are together at the end of the day, but there's still always that part of like wish that they could have lived a more open and freeing life together, because the way they hid it from their family was they literally just got away with, and everyone accepted it to a certain degree, where it was just, they lived together for so long when they was young because they had no money, and then neither of them found husbands, so they just kept living together. And that worked, apparently. Yeah. Like, that was the...
Yeah. I mean, at the time, who would know any different?
Yeah, and they got away with it, so... it's
they got away with it.
They got away with it. I mean, it's kind of weird because I feel like if someone said that to me, like, I can't imagine any of my family members being like, look, I've lived with this person forever. Like, what? Really? Till you're like 70? Like, you ever thought about moving out? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's so many questions to be asked. And I guess my one criticism for it is that, 1 hour 20, I would have loved just some more incidental, like, stories. Just random stories about their past, or like even just like there's a scene where they go over to they have another gay couple who you kind of get the gist that they were friends from back in the heyday, and they kept their secret and they kept each other's relationships, partners, all secret, and they had this sort of secret, I guess, underground club to a degree where they could all come over to one another's house and openly be with their partner in front of each other in these sort of environments, but then they went back to hiding it, of course, during the day-to-day. And I kind of wished there was just more random stories, a few more of those thrown in from that period of them just discussing, and I don't even mean like dark stuff. I don't mean like, oh yeah, this time, like, like we got caught doing this, it's something like that. I just mean like just random stories would have been nice, because at 1 hour 20 it kind of goes real fast, and then you're like, okay, the credits rolling, that was fast. It was good. It was so good I wish there was more, and it was over.
So I checked out the first few episodes of the new Netflix animated series Hoops. It follows like a disgruntled high school basketball coach. It's mediocre. It's just all like in your face, vulgar jokes. No anything else. There's no heart or character development at the moment or anything like that. It's just it's like Rick and Morty, but none of the smart stuff, which is disappointing because I feel like Netflix has had a good run with the animated series. But yeah, this is a bit of a letdown.
Can't win them all.
I mean, can't win them all. Disappointing because obviously like Jake Johnson and that kind of stuff. But yeah, maybe it gets better. I might give it another crack. But
Nah.
3 episodes in, I'm like,
Move on.
Even I have my
Yeah, come on.
even I have my standards. Dylan, you checked out the series Feel Good. What's Feel Good? Is it good?
I really like this. So I never heard of this, and then I randomly started watching it because I don't know. It was in my suggested Netflix feed. I don't know if it was because I just watched a documentary about a old gay couple, but then they're like, yeah, here's a series about a gay couple. So the series the series stars Mae Martin, who, and it's created by her as well. I have no idea who she is, right? Until I watched this show. I'd never seen it before, but I gather quickly that she's a stand-up, and this is her series in a similar sort of way to like Josh Thomas writing a series where he's obviously just kind of playing himself. I feel like this is like it's her writing stuff to the point that her character is a stand-up comedian in the show. So it's like got that same sort of comedian writes character that's obviously them, but also not them kind of vibe about it. And the thing about this show that's kind of cool is the series starts and you think it's going to be a kind of slow burn love story. That the start, Mae's doing the stand-up set. And then there's other character who's played by Charlotte Ritchie called George is down there in the audience watching. And afterwards they begin talking, and obviously you can tell they're into one another. Mae is very openly gay. It is quite obvious that George is not, or is not sure what they are into a bit, because their friend with them is just making much of you need to get a dick joke and all this sort of stuff. But then she leaves and George goes and finds Mae, and then that's like the first 10 minutes, and then the show kind of skips ahead like 3 months. It kind of goes through a montage of them going on all these happy dates and laying in bed, watching TV, all this sort of stuff, and then it skips ahead to where they've moved in with one another, which I like, because obviously there's so many shows that are on the whole train of the relationship building and blah blah blah, especially movies. You know, you've seen the same spiel. So this skips ahead 3 months and goes, okay, they're at that stage where they're kind of past the you know, you're floating on wings, everything's great, we love each other, nothing can go wrong kind of stage. And then the show it's now like 3-4 months in, okay, now they start running into issues. They've moved in one another and they have to deal with them. The first one that comes about is they're on a video call and with Mae's parents, who's played by Lisa Kudrow, and I can't remember who her father's played by, but most importantly, Lisa Kudrow's in the show and she's fucking fantastic. Like everything she's in, she's great. And she blurts out something about Mae finding a AA meeting, and she has not mentioned that to George, that she is a ex-drug addict. Narcotics Anonymous is what she asked about. So then straight away, that's a problem. Oh, you're a Narcotics Anonymous. What were you doing? Oh, I was a drug dealer. I got kicked out of my home. I was addicted to drugs. Whoa, that's a big problem. And then a lot of issues the two begin running into on the opposite end. George is not openly gay or /bi. All her previous partners, you discover, have been men. All of her friends believe that she is straight, and George is not telling her friends that she is dating Mae, even though they are living together, and she's trying to keep it as much as a secret as possible, which understandably Mae has issues with it. So it's only 6 episodes, and they're only 30 minutes each. So it went by super fucking fast. Like 6 episodes of 30 minutes when you're used to watching, 40-something minute episodes. Most Netflix series are, 10 episodes or whatever. This 6 episodes flew by. I binge watched this like a true animal. And I really want more. Like it ended on a good cliffhanger. I want to see where their relationship and all the side characters were introduced in the series. There's one character played, I don't know if I can find the person's name who plays them here. Don't know. But there's a character who's in the Narcotics Anonymous, this older lady who befriends May, and she's an absolute right. Love her. And Lisa Kudrow in the show is just, she's something else as well. So I would suggest people watch this. I think this is so far one of my sort of, I'd guess, hidden gems that I've kind of stumbled across. Like, if you were to ask me top 10 TV shows of the year, this would probably slot somewhere in that list so far. I enjoyed it that much. Ooh. And I have not seen or heard about this show until it randomly popped up on my feed before. Have you heard of this at all? No?
No, I don't. Maybe it popped up, but there might have been a little bit of buzz around it, but yeah, I didn't hear much about it.
No, so stumbled upon it, and I
pretty sure back in March. So yeah. And then you watched the Netflix original film, the half of it. What did you think of that one?
It was okay. I feel was this drummed up? Did this review a lot better than I think it actually is?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I remember a lot of people writing that it was great.
Yeah, I remember I talked about it on a previous episode. I liked it, but I did not like it to the degree some people did. It's got a 74% on Metacritic, but a 97% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I don't know. I would struggle to give it 7. I'd probably be around like a 6 or a 6.5, honestly. Good performances. The setup is kind of cool. If you don't know, the setup is I can't bother the names, being able to find the characters' names, but the main character is this girl who kind of does all the homework for people at a school and gets paid for
Chu.
it. Sorry, what's her?
Ellie Chu.
Is that the character name or the actor name?
The character name. The actress is played by. The actress is Leah Lewis.
Okay. Yeah. So she gets paid for all this stuff, and then this boy. Do you have the dude's name?
Paul.
Paul. Yeah, he wants to write a love letter to Asta, and so he pays for this one love letter, or what was supposed to be one love letter, and it kind of just down spirals from there, from them writing more, and it becomes very obvious that, what was her name again? Ellie, the main character?
Yes.
It becomes very obvious straight away that obviously Ellie is into Asta, and that's how she's writing these love letters so well, because she's writing them actually just and having fun with it, because she's writing the love letters, even though she's writing them for Paul's character. But I just don't feel like the payoff, like, not that the ending was bad. I just feel like, and it also just introduces some weird elements thrown in with Paul suddenly like, oh, like, I'm super Christian, and he has a whole weird moment somewhat in it. I don't know, like I kind of just feel like it didn't come together as well towards the end. I don't mind the setup as far as like a rom-com goes. Like, it's a cool setup for a rom-com story, like a bi awakening potentially. I guess is like what you want to potentially call it for, like, in some regards. But nah, it was okay. I mean, I didn't hate it. I remember seeing everyone saying it was great, and then obviously you watch it and you're like, yeah, it was okay. It was no Love, Simon, that's for sure.
Still the gold standard.
Yeah, for me.
All right, that's everything that's been our watch history. Let's move into some news. DC Fandome happened over the last weekend. A lot of information popped out of that. We'll start off with the big one. They showed a trailer for the Batman.
Yeah.
We've got our first look at, obviously, Robert Pattinson's Batman in the suit, his look as Bruce Wayne. We had our first look at Colin Farrell as the Penguin.
Blink and you miss it.
Blink and you'll miss it, but also he's like hidden behind a pound of prosthetics. So even if you did see him, you might not have recognized him. Also got a bit of a look at Paul Dano's Riddler and Zoe Kravitz's Catwoman. Obviously, very early in production that was shut down due to COVID. They're going to be back shooting sometime in September. But Dylan, how are you feeling about the Batman at the moment?
Yeah, good. I mean, obviously, we talked about it when it was announced, and you can gather from the start of this, I was already on board with Robert Pattinson playing Batman. I think that's been covered. Matt Reeves, I think he's good director, so I was already kind of on board with this. So I definitely didn't come in looking to be swayed, but from what we've seen, looks awesome. A couple of things that stand out, obviously, is the bat symbol, the more thinner, modern day, sleek design. I guess I like that U1-ish design of the bat symbol or whatever. In a lot of ways, I feel like the story may be inspired by
Zero Year.
Not Year One, Zero Year, which would be cool. I love what they're kind of setting up with the Riddler in this, and if they are doing that 0 year type Riddler stuff, that's going to be really cool to see. The one moment we see of Batman beating absolute crap out of someone was awesome. Pump, beat him to a bloody pulp.
Great sound effects.
Great, yeah. The Batmobile was awesome. That one moment where we see the Penguin like in the car running away, he's like, this guy's crazy. Awesome. There's nothing I didn't. This was great. I mean, this made me go from like I'm going to watch it anyway to kind of wish it was out sooner. Like it really has. I guess the problem is we went from having the last couple of appearances of Batman be tied into such like bigger than Batman stories to a degree. Obviously, they were tied into like Superman and the bigger DC universe, Justice League movie, etc., etc., etc. So having this one come back down to kind of feeling like Nolan versus Batman takes on some just straight up criminal scum feels great.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the trailer. Obviously, it set the tone very well with the Nirvana song at the start. Again, obviously they've only got like 25% of the movie shot, so I'm sure there's even more cool stuff that we'll get in the final film. But as an initial teaser and a taste of what we can expect from the Batman, it looks amazing. So
shout out to that one time where everyone on the internet was losing their mind over that one dude who was obviously a stuntman riding the Batman bike at a fucking cemetery or whatever. Everyone was going off saying the suit looked like shit. Fuck you. I'm glad I was down on this podcast saying you all fucking suck. Shut the hell up.
Yeah, that suit looks great. So, don't know what you're complaining about. Even Zoe Kravitz looks good, like with the basic burglar mask, but obviously the ears kind of have formed naturally.
Yeah, naturally.
Naturally. So, yeah, very cool. We got a little bit more information about Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut of Justice League, and we got a trailer.
Hashtag
Hallelujah. Obviously, the big confirmation is it's going to be 4 hours long. It had been rumored for a while that it was going to be like a very long, like film or project, but it is going to be 4 1-hour episodes. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't remember how much we talked about previously, but just to quickly get out of the way, I'm somewhat excited for this. but closetedly so. Like I'm not hashtag Free Snyder on Twitter or anything, but after they announced it, I'm like, I hated the Twitter campaign, but I'm kind of excited that it's happening nonetheless. The trailer was shit. Bad trailer. But I think it's also because he hasn't been back in that booth editing for too long or doing those slight reshoots or whatever he said he was doing. Like there was some level of reshoots he was doing, I think, on people on green screens or whatever to CGI people in the places kind of thing. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what I'll say forever, even if this is bad, that Zack Snyder deserves this film, I think. He deserves to have it get it out the way he intended. Like he set up the DC universe, he was putting all these things into play, and then horrible, horrific circumstances forced him to have to leave the production of Justice League. So the fact that he gets returned to this and finally put it out, no matter if it's bad or terrible, I think that is just good. And I hope that helps make him and the fans feel better. But yeah, the trailer was shit. 4 hours, I don't care. I feel like if you're going to give him the Snyder Cut, you don't then suddenly start being like, well, it can only be 2 hours long because that defeats the entire purpose. The 1 hour thing, weird. I wish they'd actually just put it out as 4 hours and just press go.
Yeah, that's weird.
That is
Why
weird.
break it up? If you need to take a break, you can just hit pause on HBO Max.
Yeah.
It's not like it's if I could understand if they were like screening it on HBO, like as like a fortnight or like 4-week special miniseries or something, but it's going straight to a streaming service. Just make it one thing.
I guess we'll have to hold and wait and see, but maybe if it's edited correctly, it'll just become an event viewing type thing. Like people will be talking about it after the first part, maybe. I really don't know. Like the fact that there's so much going to change, whether or not it turns out good or not. But I definitely feel like this trailer doesn't do justice to probably how different the movie's going to be. Because most of the footage in this trailer is stuff we have seen in the actual movie already. And maybe that's done on purpose. Maybe there's, he's still holding back some of the hot stuff that people want to see. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna watch it. Like there's little things. The fact that the last shot is them all standing on the wall, which in the proper movie is them like overlooking the rubble of where they just fought fucking whatever his name was. Don't remember now. Can't even remember. I will say that
doesn't really matter.
Darkseid kind of looks like shit. But
was it Darkseid? To be confirmation?
Oh yeah. He's in this now.
Yeah. Okay.
But the CGI obviously will presumably get better as we get closer to the release date. So I'm not going to hold too much of it.
Yeah, I'm keen as well, but we'll wait and see. It's a difficult one. I do want to bring up a point that I saw on Instagram by the profile Static Reviews. The original Justice League failed because of Zack Snyder's directing. Instead of making a 2 to 2.5 hour movie, Snyder had over 4 hours of footage, making it impossible to edit into a theatrical release. Do you think that's a fair statement?
No, because I guess you're calling every other movie they've had to cut down of his a failure. So nearly every movie he's done has had a director's cut that is better.
4 hours long?
Not always 4 hours long, but I think majority of his movies have director's cuts that are, for most, especially fans, considered better. I even think his remake of Dawn of the Dead even has a director's cut, with another 10, 15 minutes on it or something. But obviously Watchmen has a massive cut. Batman v Superman has a massive cut. I think the only one I don't think has one is Legends of Gahul. Is the only one I think.
Sucker Punch.
Sucker Punch has one.
Does?
Yeah.
Is it better though?
Well, it turns it from a PG movie into what it should have been originally.
Okay.
Right? And that was... So, I mean, this is separate kind of Snyder kind of conversation that you can go on forever, but in general, I feel like Snyder is constantly cucked by cinemas. And Sucker Punch, I feel like is a good example. Sucker Punch, I love the idea of that movie. I hated it watching it. I feel like it's actually a really bad movie. It's after the first action scene, it just runs out of old steam. What that movie needed to be was go super hard into its fucked up themes of those girls getting
fucked with.
Yeah, go more into that. Lean more into it to make it darker. Go for it if you're gonna go for it. And I feel like he would have, but he got told he couldn't. So then you end up with Sucker Punch. I'm someone who stands by the Batman v Superman Ultimate cut. I think the original cut's a 6, Ultimate cut's an 8. I think that movie is substantially better. Watchmen director's cut, neither here nor there. If you already like that movie, you're gonna like that's the thing. With most director's cuts, though, I feel apart from a few key ones like Blade Runner and stuff, where they, I really don't like original Blade Runner. I think it's shit. But the final cut is the BGs. But if you don't like Watchmen, you're not gonna watch suddenly the extended version and like it more. You know what I mean? If you already like the movie, you're gonna watch the extended one and probably just like it more by stance. So,
but again, is that Zack Snyder not being able to do his job of making a 2.5 hour movie.
No, because I mean it's his movie. Like it's a weird criticism to have because then it's like, well, why it's then saying he should have been shooting less in case
project.
He should have been shooting less in case the director had to come in and finish his project for him. That's not really a real criticism.
No, but if like the studio sets up at the start of the project, hey, we want it to be 2.5 hours, and he doesn't meet the criteria.
There's no fucking way that he is allowed to shoot 4 hours of content just because he chooses to. Like, that's signed off on.
That's true.
Right? So producers, production people, whatever, budgeting, everything costs money. And he doesn't just suddenly shoot double. That's not how... He's not a guerrilla indie filmmaker going out and just with a handycam shooting shit. So if he shot 4 hours, he was allowed to shoot 4 hours. So it's not his fault.
Okay.
Well, it's not.
Yeah,
like they wouldn't let him. No big studio out there would let any director shoot that much. You just can't do it. Like how do you slip 2 hours of extra film under the studio's nose? Like all the money. Like that's 2 hours of money. There's a lot of that's weeks, months of extra shooting for a movie. That's hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, whoops. You know?
Well, then I guess the question going from there is why did they decide to cut it down so much?
I don't know.
And completely change it by cutting away half the movie.
I mean, that's my major problem with what DC did with the whole Snyder DC thing, which is he started it with Man of Steel, and if they didn't like it, they should have changed course straight away. But instead, they stuck with it. They got him to do Batman v Superman, and they tried to have him cut that down to be more in line with what the fuck was happening in Marvel. But then they automatically fuck themselves because, like, if you're going to get someone like Snyder come in and you want him to do his thing, let him do his thing, or just don't have him. Just get someone else. You know, like why pay someone who's obviously not going to.
Believe it or not, there's not a shortage of directors out there.
Yeah, like why pay someone like Snyder to come in and then force him to paint between these weird lines you're setting up? Like you can hire someone else who would kind of happily do that and probably be better at painting in between the lines. You know, and I'm not even trying to argue which is better for the DC universe in the past tense. I have no idea which is better, Snyder or non-Snyder. I have no idea. But the fact is, I don't know why. Like a lot of people like to blame the failure on Snyder. I don't think it's his fault. Like he was doing his job, and you can tell he's passionate about it. Even if you don't like his movies, you can tell he's passionate about it.
Yeah. So they also revealed the full squad for James Gunn's Suicide Squad. I won't go into the full list, but you can check out the roll call over on the Warner Brothers or DC YouTube. What do you feel about the footage and behind the scenes stuff they showed for Suicide Squad?
Yes, I'm really keen for this because James Gunn's doing it. Obviously, I feel like that's why most people would be keen for this. It's a list of like 20 characters, and I feel like half of them are going to die in the first 15 to half an hour of the movie easily. I think that's kind of obvious, and that's good. I hope we find out that this is getting like an American R or a Australian MAE type thing. I would love that. I don't see why they couldn't kind of do that. Fuck it. Because then James Gunn gets to do a combination of Guardians of the Galaxy, but including more of blood and guts and violence from his horror shooting experience prior to Guardians, because that's what he'd done before all those movies. He did fucking horror movies. I mean, have you ever watched what's it called? Super?
Slither?
No.
Or Super? No.
So okay,
it's
so
on the list.
That movie is something special. Like it is comedic, but also kind of darkly comedic, and it's also just super violent. It's like Kick-Ass, but serious and weird.
Yeah.
And when it goes violent, it goes like proper violent. So I feel like if you've ever watched that movie, who's the star of that? The dude from Office. What's his name? Dwight. What's Dwight's?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought most people probably do. Anyway, Dwight from The Office is the star of that movie, and co-stars Ellie. What the fuck?
Rainn Wilson.
Yeah, and the co-stars Ellie.
And starring Ellen Page.
Ellen Page. There you go. Thank you. Yeah. So if you want to, I would say if you want an idea of the kind of, I feel like it's that somewhere between that movie and Guardians is where you mash up and meet James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. Is what I'm hoping. Like, it can't be as serious and fucked up as that movie. It has to be a bit more lighthearted and fun, but hopefully it's a bit more violent at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, everything they talked about, it looks interesting. Obviously, a lot of characters that definitely won't survive. Good marketing move for every single one of them to have some sort of logo. So you can have all sorts of merch and stuff. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think interesting cast. Interesting variety of Suicide Squad members. Much bigger squad than the first one. Interesting that it's only, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, and Rick Flag and Amanda Waller coming back.
Yeah, that we know of, unless there's like cameos.
Yeah, that's true. Could be cameos and stuff from the first one. But yeah, checking that one out. I'm looking forward. Maybe do some sort of bet before the movie comes out.
What? Who dies?
Which character dies first?
That's a good.
Good predictions.
That's a good article in case anyone off a website wants to steal that.
Okay, we need to cut that out of the episodes. Yeah. So, we got a bit of a taste of Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam. The project that's been. We got a little bit of a tease. It's mostly concept art and that kind of thing. An animatic. With Dwayne Johnson talking at the top of it. He's been attached to the role for apparently over a decade. And it seems like he's finally going to happen. It sounds like he's going to be working against the Justice Society of America. Confirmed that Dr. Fate, Hawkman, Cyclone, and Atom Smasher are going to be in the film. With Atom Smasher played by Noah Centineo. The guy whose name I always stuff up, even though I see him in a bunch of Netflix stuff. How are you feeling about Black Adam? Is it actually going to come out?
It's reached the stage of it's been around for too long. I'm just sick of it. Like, I could be into it. The animatic did nothing for me because I feel like also The Rock's narration was just The Rock or Dwayne Johnson just doing narration. He was doing it in character. Well, like he was saying it from a first-person perspective, but it didn't really. It sounded like a very like quick line reading. Like there didn't sound.
You know what it reminded me of?
What? That
Fast and Furious video game.
Yeah, it sounded like that. It did. It did sound like he got in the booth for 2 seconds and no one had a chance to go.
No one was directing him. Just read the lines.
Give it a little bit more or something. So yeah, I don't know. I'll be excited when I have more than a fucking animatic with bad VA.
Yep. So they had a flash panel at the Fandome, but the most interesting news about the Flash movie was announced beforehand, with Ben Affleck confirming he's coming back to play Batman in The Flash. So how long until we rename this movie Flash and the Batman? Because you've already got Michael Keaton confirmed.
I reckon he's only doing like one quick scene.
Okay.
That I highly doubt he's in the movie for that much. I also think it would be silly to have him in the movie for too much. I feel like it would overshadow it. And that's why I think it's a kind of smart move to get out ahead of it and just say, hey, he's going to be in it. And then when everyone watches it, and even if they go in expecting him to be in it for more, and he's only in it for a little bit, then the internet talk isn't suddenly going to be like, oh, there was a Ben Affleck cameo. Like it's worn off, like the huff, the buff, already done. I'm more interested to find out when they're going to get all the Batman actors back. Val Kilmer, George Clooney.
I mean,
Adam
maybe
West.
they will. I don't know if they do Adam West.
Why not?
Because he died in 2017.
So?
I guess. CGI.
Yeah.
De-aging technology.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like his death was long enough that they could do a cameo and it would be okay.
Cameo, maybe. I don't know, but then it becomes too much like the Crisis on Infinite Earths TV series.
Exactly. I mean, they're doing Flashpoint, right?
They are doing Flashpoint.
Exactly. So, Just add a whole bunch of cameos. Even if the whole bunch of cameos take place over a 5-minute scene. Because I guess if you want to like throw out the secretly Ben Affleck's in it more, then you go, well, Ben Affleck plays his version of Batman in it, but then also he's going to play alternate father. What the fuck is Bruce's dad's name? I keep forgetting his...
Thomas
Wayne. Then they're going to throw out he's playing Thomas Wayne as well or something. Which could be a thing, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Again, that's another project that really needs to get made. It's been in the works for so long. Just film it already, you know? It was meant to be done... How long ago did Justice League come out?
2 years.
2 years? Oh, I guess that's not too long. It feels like it's been in the works for longer.
I might be wrong. I feel like it was. Hold on. 2017. No, so 3 years.
So, 3 years ago. So, yeah, it's been through that many directors, but I feel like this one's going to stick. And obviously, he's got good ideas on what direction to go. So, yeah. And then I guess the only other interesting piece of news, we've got a confirmed title for the Shazam sequel. It's going to be called Shazam: Fury of the Gods, and it may or may not star Sinbad. That's kind of it.
No.
Do you know why he was there in that panel?
No.
So apparently, a lot of people believe he starred in a film called Shazam in the 90s that he never starred in.
What?
Like, it's one of those... Everyone believes he starred in this Genie, like almost like the Kazam movie, but it's Shazam starring Sinbad. People have like really accurate memories of watching this movie.
Flash Gordon?
No. Of this movie called Shazam. It's the Kendrick... No, the Mandela Effect, I think.
What?
It's like some people believe that
yeah,
the world's been refreshed and like certain things have been changed. And this is one of those things that have been changed.
I have one of those, actually. For years when I was a kid, I believed I'd seen a movie with Batman and Superman in it.
No, never.
And then when I got older, I tried to track down that movie. Doesn't exist. Like there was no movie with Batman and Superman in it.
Crazy. Until now.
Well, until now, yeah, but I'm saying like I believed I watched it when I was like 10. I mean, technically, if you were to put me in a lie detector test, I'd still probably have to say I believe I watched it because I'd still believe I've watched it. Like I can picture it still. So yeah, there you go. Aliens.
Yeah. Yeah. We're actually in the Matrix.
Yeah. Good morning, America.
So apparently Netflix is adding a new feature to Netflix called Netflix Shuffle Play. Instead of having that difficult decision of what you're going to watch, you can let Netflix decide. They'll just randomly pick something based on what you've been watching. Is that something you'd actually think is useful?
No.
They seem to be adding things a lot lately.
Yeah.
That for the sake of adding them, it feels like.
No. I don't know who uses this. I can't picture using this. I don't know why I would use this. I don't like it. Take it away.
I mean, the only thing I can think of is like you want to put something on in the background.
Never. Put music on.
Never. Okay. But you just said you watched the whatever it was.
Insidious.
The Insidious.
Yeah, but like I just scrolled along my list and was like clicked on the first thing that I was like, hey, that'll do. I guarantee if I clicked shuffle, I would have gone, nah, not this. Shuffle again. Nah, not this. Shuffle again. Nah, not this. Shuffle again. At which point, I should probably just scroll and find something.
Okay.
You know, like I do it when I put placement, press shuffle on Spotify. I'm like, nah, shuffle. Nah, shuffle. Did it when I was a kid. Had my little iPod Nano. Shuffle. No, not that song. Shuffle. No, not that song. You know, like, what's the point of shuffle? Every time, just shuffle until you find the right song you want. Just pick the fucking song. Pick the movie.
Yeah.
No one actually shuffles for shuffle reasons, except for when they're at parties. And then they just want background noise. Then they're like, shuffle, go, piss off. Christmas tunes. Put them on at Christmas time. Shuffle, go, piss off. Daytime's useful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't see many people getting any use out of this, but, you know, it sounds like it's going to be a thing. So Netflix has got itself in hot water this week after around this movie called Cuties.
Yes.
Have you been following this story?
Yes, I know the gist, yeah.
So initially it is a French film directed by Maimouna Dikouri. I'm not sure. It's very French. But it premiered at Sundance earlier this year. It won the Best Directing Award for a dramatic film. It was also nominated for the Grand Jury Prize. And then it got picked up for Netflix to be shown later this year. Got delayed because of COVID. It's got a trailer scheduled for release Netflix September 9th. Then Netflix screwed the pooch, really, because the film is kind of about young girls kind of discovering... Here, I'll read the premise. 11-year-old immigrant girl, Amy, originally hailing from Senegal, lives with her mother, Miriam, in one of Paris's poorest neighborhoods in an apartment along with her two brothers, awaiting for her father to rejoin the family from Senegal. Things turn swiftly as Amy is fascinated by her disobedient neighbors Angelica's twerking clique called Cuties, an adult-style dance troupe which has contrasting fortunes and characteristics to Miriam's traditional customs, values, and traditions. So obviously, they explore some of these adult things that young girls do and kind of the culture around that. Apparently very good, very meaningful. Unfortunately, the marketing for the film has focused on the twerking and the sexualized elements, and it's caused a bit of a backlash against.
Yes, all I saw was
film.
The poster and the backlash of the poster, which I don't recall, but was them twerking or something on the poster?
Just in
leotards or something?
Positions, in leotards.
Bending over or something, which, yeah, it's a bit weird to have a poster. Well, I think it's the fact that, like, if the movie was called, like, Little Dancers or something, and it, like, you had a bunch of little girls in leotards, you'd be like, oh, it's just a bunch of girls, dancers or something. But the fact that, like, it has them kind of bent over, and then the fact the movie's called Cuties, it kind of makes it sound like they're trying to, I don't want to say sexualize, but kind of somewhere towards there, I guess was the problem, yeah. I understood why people had issues, because between the name and the posters, you're just like, the marketing... Because I didn't know about the movie until all this, obviously. But then when you look it up, you're like, nothing I'm reading about this movie adds up to what I'm seeing on these posters at all.
Yes.
Yeah. Terrible marketing.
Do you think they'll cave to the calls for the film to be pulled from Netflix?
No, I don't think they need to pull it. I just think they need to pull their heads in, you know? Bam. Got them.
Yeah, it's an odd one. How so many people saw that poster and were like, yeah, that seems like something we can put out and not get any bad press. But yeah, I can't imagine them pulling it from the schedule or whatever, however you want to describe it. It as far as I can tell, that it's a good film. I think even Tessa Thompson was someone who was trying to defend the film on like social media and that kind of thing. She was getting a bit of flack, but for people who are like super protective I can understand, but who haven't seen the film, but have an opinion of what the film is. So, yeah, I guess we'll wait and see as to how this plans out and what it's like. Stan had some very good news this past week. They've confirmed that they've locked in a contract with NBC Universal to exclusively get all their content for the next few years. They'll see them getting a lot of the Peacock originals, as well as a deal with Sky Studios, NBC Universal's international studios, DreamWorks Animation TV and a lot of the iconic series from NBC Universal, like your Parks and Recreation, 30 Rock, Will and Grace, The Office, stuff like that, will become being exclusive to Stan in the future. A lot of, obviously, big productions coming from those sources. The new Battlestar Galactica, the new Tina Fey series. There's... lots. The new Alden Ehrenreich series, Brave New World's coming soon. They just this week are releasing the new series, I Hate Julie, starring Billy Piper. This is a big coup for Stan, especially seeing as they lost out on the HBO content that they were bidding for early in the year, and probably secures Stan's place in the market.
Yes,
going forward.
I think that's the important thing, because I guess a lot of average people wouldn't and maybe hadn't even heard of Peacock. I know we talked about it briefly last week. I can't even remember what brought it up, but I thought it was funny that I don't remember what show it was, but I remember being like, when the fuck is Peacock coming? And then this happened, so there you go. But yeah, so the Peacock stuff is good, but we don't know how good, because it's kind of brand new. So like, if they're old enough, what's the old Brand New World? I think that's it. If that's good, great. If Billy Piper show is great, that's good. Keep hitting them out of the park. But I do think, obviously, the most important thing of this news is just that safe library of content that will keep people subscribed to Stan before they check out the new stuff, which is The Office and all that stuff you said before, is the kind of keeps them afloat, because they kind of need that life raft of series to keep people subscribed, as they can put more money into original series and whatever else.
Cool. And then on the back of that, Stan has been announced a growth strategy to they're going to be expected to reach 30 new productions over a year over the next 5 years for original content, thanks to 9 productions. They also announced a bunch of new projects in the works, including Eden, a 8-hour-long original drama series from Australia's rising creative star Vanessa Gazy, the creators of Miss Fisher's Murder Mysteries and Skins, which is currently in production. A series called Bump, which is a 10-part, half-hour original drama series that stars Claudia Carvin. Dom and Adrian 2020, original comedy special from the creators of Bondi Hipsters. After the Night, a 4-part true crime documentary series exploring the harrowing legacy of one of Australia's deadliest serial killers, Eric Edgar Cook, and also Christian Van Vuren is set to direct a Stan original film written by Elliot Vella, Gretel Ella, and Timothy Walker. So lots of good news for Stan going forward. A lot of big projects, a lot of Australian content, which is something that will differentiate it from a lot of the other streaming services available in the market. So
yeah, obviously the stuff we talked about earlier in the year, where it seemed like a lot of money was being pulled out of, even before COVID, it sounded like a lot of money was being pulled out of free-to-air original programming, but now it seems like, at least on Stan's front, they're getting a lot more chucked back into them. Even 9 is apparently like basically going, fuck. It sounds like 9, who owns Stan, is more or less going, we're just putting, as far as free-to-air is concerned, we're just putting our money into reality TV shows because they're cheap to make, and then they're going to put more money into Stan for original projects instead of funding original scripted stuff for free to air. They're just going to stick to doing like non-scripted reality type shit. Is what it kind of sounds like, which is good, because I think Stan, as I said, like they need that lifeboat of like Office and stuff. But if they want to stand out from all the million other streaming services, I do think that the one way to stand out is just to dive into the fact that they are Australia's number 1 streaming service, and like get a bunch of Australian original programs on there and push that, which is what they need to do, and that's good.
Some news out of the Sony Marvel universe. Olivia Wilde has signed on to do a Spider-Woman movie. Be set in the Spider-Man spin-off universe. The movie will be penned by Booksmart collaborator Katie Spielberman with Amy Pascal producing. Interesting choice, smart choice, especially after Booksmart was so well received. Interesting that everyone seems to believe it's not going to be Gwen Stacy or Spider-Gwen. It's going to be Jessica Drew, the version of the Spider-Woman who featured in the Brian Michael Bendis' new Avengers run. I mean, it's probably not as well known or as popular as Spider-Gwen is, so I guess that would be an interesting choice. But how do you feel about Olivia Wilde taking a step up to big production?
What is the Spider-Man spin-off universe?
The same universe that Venom's in,
But,
and the upcoming Morbius.
so, like, have they officially said, like, because, no, I'm not even bothering. Like, it gets so confusing. Like, so you're telling me that Spider-Man could show up in this Spider-Woman movie, right?
He could.
But then that appearance wouldn't be canon to Marvel's universe.
Yeah, correct. Currently.
Fuck this shit, man. This is stupid. How silly. Olivia Wilde directing, cool. Yep. I don't know that character you just said with Jessica, whoever. Never heard of him. So I can't get excited about it. But yeah, I'm keen to see what she could do. Olivia could do directing a bigger budget movie. I hope the one thing I hope though is that they're not like, oh, you're doing a big budget Marvel movie, better suddenly chuck in double the amount of action scenes. Like, not to say that she can't direct action, but like, why hire someone and then force their hand into, you know, again, doing something like there was some sort of fast paced stuff in Booksmart, but like, if you're gonna hire her, let her like put the character in high school, maybe have it be a
Maybe
high school drama from the Spider Point. You know what I mean? Like, why play to his strengths?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, good choice. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see which version of Spider-Woman she's gonna be directing, but yeah, interesting counterpoint, obviously, to Spider-Man, and where his plot is currently left at. So, see how that ties in. And then the other piece of news is that J.C. Chandor, the director of Triple Frontier and All Is Lost, is set to direct the Kraven the Hunter film. Of course, Kraven the Hunter, the Spider-Man villain who's a big game hunter and wants to hunt the most dangerous enemy of all, Spider-Man.
I know I missed this.
Is this something you want?
This is stupid, right? Does anyone like this? Is this a joke? Kraven. A whole movie about Kraven.
Yep.
No, get out of here. No one wants this. Who the fuck wants this?
Listen, people don't know what they want until they get it.
Who wants a movie about a game hunter?
Yeah, it's probably...
Like, let's boil it down.
I mean, you could do it in an interesting way where, I mean, it's not about him, but he's like the villain of the movie.
Yeah, but why am I watching it?
You do like the hunt with Kraven as the hunter. You know?
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Okay.
You make him Jason or Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Who's the good guy?
Random people.
Am I rooting for somebody. The deer? Who's the...
Yeah, maybe.
Run, deer,
I don't know,
run,
I'm just spitballing here.
Run, deer. I don't know. All I know is anytime I've seen him in a comic book, he's fucking stupid. And also, it has Spider-Man in it. But this isn't going to have Spider-Man in it. So now he's just fucking stupid without Spider-Man. I don't like him.
I know. I think there's potential there. Not much potential.
No, this sounds silly. Whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, they're just trying to bring that Spider-Man property out as much as licensed as much as possible.
Better Kraven the Hunter. Kraven the fucking Hunter.
Okay, what villain do you want?
Electro.
They already used him.
He could do a way better solo movie though.
Oh no, I'm thinking of the other one.
Jamie Foxx, right?
Yeah.
who was
That's not canon
good,
anymore.
by the way. That movie's somewhat underrated. I think it's a bit of a mess, but also there's some good parts in it. Jamie Foxx is quite good. Electro, eh? Give me him. Give me him. Do Noir Spider-Man, the movie. There you go.
Yeah.
Why are we fucking around with Kraven the Hunter when we can do a black and white Spider-Man? It's like Sin City, but Spider-Man. I just pitched them $1 million project. Sin City, but
just
Spider-Man.
$1 million? I don't know if they'd want to just get $1 million for a project.
$1 billion project.
Okay, now you're stretching
One
it.
Spider-Man, but it's Sin City. And Kraven the Hunter project is dead.
Sony, hit us
Solved
up,
all your money problems, Sony.
mail@explosionhour.com. New project coming to the Blumhouse. Apparently, John Carpenter is getting behind another Blumhouse reboot of one of his horror classics. After Blumhouse knocked it out of the park with their Halloween revival, the beloved horror studio is now tackling a reboot of The Thing, the 1982 sci-fi horror film based on the 1938 John W. Campbell Jr. novella Who Goes There. Carpenter confirmed he is involved with The Thing reboot, which is still in very early stages of Blumhouse Productions. Dylan, do we need a Thing reboot?
No. So my big question is, obviously, is it actually a reboot? Because obviously Halloween was a continuation. It's a sequel to the first film, and it forgets everything up, all the other sequels. So they could do a sequel to The Thing, although it's pointless. They could do what they tried to do in 2009 or whatever the fuck it was, with the Mary Elizabeth Winstead film, which was a remake slash sequel, prequel, sorry. But the problem with that movie was, which this movie would have, is that it's still set in the same place, same sort of cast of characters, still doesn't have the same shock moments or whatever, because you kind of know what's going to happen because it's a prequel and you know how the real movie starts and what the go is there. So, and that movie was called The Thing, and the original thing was just called Thing, right? I think that's how or vice versa.
Nope, they both have the same name.
Okay, even more confusing. Anyway, that movie wasn't very good. I have watched it. I can't remember.
It set the precedent of confusing
there you go.
film sequel names.
So no, we don't need this, but I will not get angry about it because I feel like Blumhouse has earned a little bit of a trust, So I'll give old Jason Blumhouse 2 shakes of my time and see what he can come up with over there. I just figure it's him just making all these movies. Old Jason Blumhouse.
Yep, just Jason.
Isn't it weird that there's a production company, right, called Blumhouse, which is pretty famous now. Most people know what Blumhouse is. And most of the time, production companies are just made up names. But the dude's name is Jason Blumhouse. But that's the name.
No, it's just Blum.
Oh,
he put House on
yeah, he's the House of Blum.
Yeah, the House of Blum.
It's still weird though, right? Like, most movie companies, the famous ones you can think of. Oh, shout out to Jessica 20th Century Fox. Like, it's not a thing. Like Walt Disney is a standout separate to this, obviously.
That's only the biggest production company that doesn't count.
That one does count. But I'm just saying, other than that, what else you got? I can think of one more, but it's not very big.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah, Jerry Bruckheimer Productions. Real on the nose.
Yeah.
But it's not very big. That's not as big as everyone knows Blumhouse.
Weinstein Company.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
Rip.
You wanted examples.
Miramax.
So.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
You crashed into the mountain with that one.
Final story. Apparently, CW is currently working on a new project from Oscar winner writer Diablo Cody with Greg Berlanti as the serving as executive producer. It's based on a animated project. Do you know what it is?
I feel like I've read it, but I've already forgot. So
They're going to do a live-action sequel Powerpuff Girls series.
no, I have not read that. Come again. Explain.
Variety has the news about a live-action sequel series based on the Powerpuff Girls, as well as a description of what we can expect if the show moves forward. In the updated version of the series, the titular superheroes are now disillusioned 20-somethings who resent having lost their childhood to crime fighting. Will they agree to reunite now that the world needs them more than ever? So yes, a Powerpuff Girls series written by Diablo Cody set 10 years after the original series in live action on CW.
Jojo. Shout outs. Yeah, this sounds great. I'm all in.
I mean, it's just crazy enough that it might work.
I think it will. Here's how I want the show to go. They never come around. They're like, you don't deserve it. You all suck. Fucking normal humans. Pieces of shit. Don't deserve our help. Bloody old mate doctor, whatever their dad name was. Drug addict.
Just made us like
Andy
that.
Serkis plays him. Who plays Mojo Jojo? That's my number one thing, because that's my... What was the name of those teenage gang? Remember them? Did you ever watch Powerpuff Girls, or is this after your time?
No, not really.
Okay, so I watched a lot of Powerpuff Girls. So there was a teenage gang. I think it was called like the Green Gang something, or I don't know. And it was a teenage gang of like 3. Yeah, he'll play them like all grown up now. I'll be like 30-something. Mojo Jojo. Yeah, I swear they did a movie where it was like they were a little bit older. Not like teenagers or whatever, but like it was like a year or a couple of years in or something like that. Sugar, spice, and everything, not nice. There's the tagline on the movie poster.
Yeah.
I hope they remake the intro of the show.
Listen, look forward to our Fancast article coming to Explosion Network sometime.
Well, they already shot my fucking foot off with... I got excited about fucking Hilary Duff.
In the Lizzie McGuire series?
And then what happened with that?
Is that still up in the air?
Yeah.
I don't know. So many creative differences or whatever, yeah. So
Never get excited about any of these shows I used to watch when I was a kid come back anymore.
All right, that's all the news for this episode. It's been a long one, so let's get into what did we end up watching. Dylan, what did we end up watching?
Death at a Funeral.
God, I hate funerals, don't you? They're just so depressing. Just I don't know, it's just the death and everything.
If there's anything I can do, Sandra. Oh, don't put your hand there, dear. You'll leave smudge marks. Are you okay?
I'm a bit nervous.
We're on our way to a funeral, you wanker! Don't you have any respect? Okay, calm down. Can I get you a cup of tea? Tea can do many things, Jane, but it can't bring back the dead.
We can't fight what we had together.
Justin, it was one night. It was a massive mistake. I was drunk out of my mind. You could have been a donkey.
So what are you doing next weekend?
Have one of these. It'll make you feel better.
The Valium you gave to Simon wasn't actually Valium. It's an hallucinogenic concoction.
I must be going mad. Why are my hands so big?
Exciting, isn't it?
Yes, the 2007 film directed by Frank Oz, starring Ewan Bremer, Peter Dinklage, Matthew McFadden, Chris Marshall, Alan Tudyk, Rupert Graves, Andy Nyman, Keely Hawes, Daisy Donovan. Chaos ensues when a man tries to expose a dark secret regarding a recently deceased patriarch of a dysfunctional British family.
What a synopsis.
Yep. Dylan, have you watched Death at a Funeral before?
Yes, I've seen this movie a couple of times.
Well, I had to pick this episode. I had never seen Death at a Funeral. It was one of those films that was always talked about and was one that I knew I had to watch because obviously it very well received. And it lived up to it. I think it's a charming, smaller film. It's not very big. It's very quite short. Doesn't outstay its welcome. yeah, really enjoyable. Obviously, you know, they all go to a funeral and hijinks ensue. In really good cast. Everyone gets kind of their moments, but obviously Alan Tudyk, I feel like, is a standout in this film. Someone who's accidentally gets on some hallucinogenics. And, you know, great. I think the weird thing was watching this was seeing Rupert Graves in the film, who I know from Sherlock and looks very different.
All right, yeah.
He plays Robert, the brother, yeah.
Yeah, so I think we've got an opposite effect. So this is this movie I watched when it came out on DVD or whatever. And this is the first time I ever saw Alan Tudyk, Rupert Graves, Peter Dinklage, whoever the fuck else. Like, this is the first time I saw most of these people.
Yes.
So anything I watched after, I'm like, that's the person from Death at a Funeral. That's the person from Death at a Funeral.
Yeah.
That's the person from Death at a Funeral. So yeah, we've got opposite effects on this.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure you really like this film.
I do really like it. I still really like it. I guess I haven't watched it for a few years. Number one thing that stands out if I was to like put up something that that would probably have to change if I was to make it today is the punchline of
The gays.
Oh yeah, the gay man.
It's
It's
one
like
of the gays.
yeah, the gay sort of character type and like having to hide that because it's not written in a way that like it's hiding it because the dead father was cheating on her wife. It's hiding it because he was gay. It's
Yes.
the negative connotation. I don't think it ruins the film for me because as I said, I've seen it several times before, so I it's fine. I feel like if you hadn't seen this before and if someone watched it today and they had an issue with that, I think it would kind of be justified. I think it's sort of weird writing, but yeah, it's kind of on that cusp, I guess, in 2007 on a to fit in there where they were still kind of writing bad
Stuff like that, yeah.
character types like that. But no, Alan Tudyk is the standout, and the reason that I watched this so many times when I was in high school, whenever this came out. Yeah, I was in high school. He is fantastic, and this is, as I said, this is the first thing I ever saw him in, and I'd never even heard of Firefly until like a couple of years after this, and everything after that, I was just thinking of Alan Tudyk in this, and just I've never even looked up if everything he did was on script or not. I like to imagine it was him ad-libbing everything.
He was actually on drugs the entire time.
He's just on drugs. But there's
Went
just
method.
there's so many little things, little random things he does, or just the way he like just does. I don't know. It can't be replicated. And to a point, since I'll bring it up quickly, they remade this movie a couple years later. Death at a Funeral. I watched it.
American.
I watched it pretty much. I didn't like the idea as soon as it was announced. I think my hate was justified. It's not very good. And the reason it's not very good is because they just try making the exact same movie, but in a different setting.
They saw a description that said black comedy.
Yeah.
And they went, African American comedy.
Yeah. Let's change it. But honestly, that's the biggest problem with the remake is that instead of leaning more into the fact that it has a African American cast and like changing the jokes and family dynamic and whatever else to kind of play more into that, because like the family dynamic in this film plays into the whole sort of uptight father figure doesn't want the daughter comes home, oh no, there are character types of British family being played at here, and a lot of them maybe American audiences don't get, and I feel like maybe we just kind of take them for granted because Australian and British sort of character types can often feel very similar that you see on TV or movies here and whatever else. Like a lot of there's sort of crossover. But when they tried to do the American one, they were basically the exact same characters except for now they're played by mostly old black cast, but they don't lean into the fact that they updated and changed the cast. Anyway, they have James Marsden play Alan Tudyk's character in that. And to define how Alan Tudyk works and James Marsden doesn't, Alan Tudyk is funny and James Marsden very obviously watched this and is trying to do as crazy as Alan Tudyk, but you can tell he's trying hard. You know, if that makes any sense. Like, he's trying too hard to be crazy, like too crazy, because he watched this film, and that's kind of the takeaway he took from it. Anyway, that movie's shit. I have no idea. And the weird thing is they just hired Peter Dinklage to play the same character but name him a different character, and that's very weird. And it's the exact same thing. It's quite odd. I'm sure he was like, yes, I'll take another $1 million to do the exact same fucking movie, but sure, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, super enjoyable. Lots of good laughs. Really sweet. I kind of timeless-ish, other than the references. I feel like it could pretty much be released at any possible time and still kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a really good script, and obviously well directed by Frank Oz. Last feature he produced is done, so just crazy.
I think I was trying to think of what my favorite moment is, and I actually think it's just, and it's the one that made me laugh out loud the most rewatching it, so it has to be, because I've seen it several times, which is when they're just sitting there for the first time and they're doing the eulogy, and then Alan Tudyk's sitting there saying, it moved. And he's just, I think it's his face and the fact he's trying to keep it in, and then his girlfriend or whatever's just like, shut up, and he's like, oh my god, yeah, and then eventually he stands up, someone's alive.
And then it comes back because
yeah, it plays all back when someone is actually in there, and the fact he's just like sitting there like, I was fucking right, like you can tell the look on his face where he's just like still out on drugs, but like, I was right, there's someone alive.
No, I think when Troy and Howard are like having a fight or something in the bathroom, and Peter Dinklage has obviously just cracked his head on the table.
Yep. Jumps up and down.
Just pinch him.
Yeah, don't know how to check a pulse or something, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, starting to be a pharmacist. Don't know how to check a pulse.
No.
Yeah. All right, that brings us to the end of this episode of What Do You Want to Watch? If you want to find us on Twitter, explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. Find all our handles there. Of course, just go to explosionnetwork.com to see our news, reviews, podcasts. Everything is over at explosionnetwork.com. If you want to help us out, leave us a review either on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or on Twitter, or tell a friend about the podcast. Tell them about how we'll push them up a hill in a wheelchair. But we won't help them go to the bathroom.
Wow.
We have to draw the line somewhere.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Draw the line somewhere. All right, thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.